Remarketing, also called retargeting. Are these just new buzzwords, or is it something that actually works? Well, let's see. Imagine a prospective customer browsing your online store. Unfortunately, the majority of these visitors are not converted to customers. They leave your site before checking out. The reasons can be it's their first visit and they're not sure about your store's credibility. They get distracted and simply don't finish the purchase. They don't quite find what they're looking for. Or maybe they just decide to do the shopping later and they end up forgetting about your site completely. This is where remarketing kicks in. Thanks to cookies, not these, but these, every time a visitor gets to any of your product pages, this information is stored in their device. Computer, tablet, phone, doesn't really matter. Later on, advertisement systems can pull this information out, even though the prospect's already gone to a completely different site. Searching the web, reading through various sites, browsing social networks, watching videos, no matter what they do the next day, you can now reach them with highly targeted ads. Like, hey, still looking for this phone? Or, you were interested in this blue umbrella, so how about this yellow one? The purpose is to remind them about your online store and bringing them back so they finish their purchase.
These types of remarketing ads have been around for over a decade, but with technology getting more advanced, consumers are starting to take more notice to them. The main objective of these ads is to bring back consumers that have left their websites and to remind them of a possible purchase that they have forgot about. Marketers use software such as Google Analytics to track and record search patterns and histories to send out customized ads that can follow you almost anywhere on the web. This marketing technique can undoubtedly be beneficial, but many companies fail to fully understand the effects on consumers and how consumers might be reacting. Specifically, we want to look at the possible negative reactions that consumers have when viewing these ads.
To further understand how and why companies are using remarketing ads, we conducted an interview with Dave Novak, General Manager and co-owner of Pugi Hyundai, who actually uses this type of marketing on a daily basis.
My knowledge has grown, exponentially. Retargeting again is it's a niche. It's how to put your ad in front of as many consumers as possible. It's almost like being in the background. So retargeting is, somebody in the back, waving their hand, going, "Hey, I'm still here. Hey, what about me?" So you've looked at Pugi.com and now you're like, well, you know what? I think I might go camping with my friends. So let me look at, a site for campgrounds. In the margin you may see, a Hyundai ad or a Pugi banner. And so that's a retarget. That is us in the background waving our hands, going, "We're still here. Come on back. Come on back. Remember that car you wanted to buy?" Social media has come about pretty recently, and it's a pretty effective tool to let the consumer almost market to themselves. If they have an interest in a certain product, especially through Facebook is a prime example. Facebook has donated now millions and millions and millions of dollars to advertising. So as a Facebook user, for example, you have a piece of marketing that comes across your feed. If you hit it, then who you click through will download a cookie onto your device, and that cookie kind of works as a tracking device. It'll follow you to other sites and it'll market that specific thing no matter what site you're on. Case in point, you go to Pugi.com or you're on your Facebook page, and on your news feed you see somebody likes Pugi. They were in our shop and liked us, and it's on your news feed. If you were to say, "I'm interested," click "I'm interested," or click on the article itself, we would then market to you. If you went to another site, we would have a Pugi ad in the margin. Internet marketing used to be about 10% of our budget. It's now about 60%. And it was very much catered toward desktop until the last 18 months. For the first time, my analytics are showing me that more users are coming up on our mobile device now than desktop for the first time. the benefit to the consumer is to increase shopper knowledge. Take automotive for example. So the biggest problem with automotive, and it's well deserved, by the way. This is not something I'm saying is unfairly given, but automotive has a reputation for being very high pressure, a lot of trickery, a lot of word games, a lot of taglines. If I could, would you? And I don't want to say sleazy, but the automotive industry was regarded as less than above board. Because you had to go to the dealership, you had to deal with the salesman, you had to be presented the product based on that person's knowledge and be almost forced into a quick decision, that involved many thousands of dollars. So especially with social media, you get much more of an element of what are my friends saying about this product. It's very non-invasive in terms of I can shop on my device without that person on the other end going, hey, you really need to do this. I can do a lot of research. I can use third party for pricing. I can use the manufacturer for specs. I can see video. I can see, a lot of virtual stuff. And after all of that, when I'm ready, I can then go to a dealership with my price in hand and basically say, this is what I want and this is what I'll pay. Will you do it? I'd say mostly probably not. I'm a 50-year-old male. I got my first cell phone when I was 35. I myself didn't know that I was being tracked and traced until I started going to these seminars. And at first I was like, wow, that's kind of spooky, when you think about it. So what is the risk? The risk is it could be viewed as an invasion of privacy. So when I think about the fact that, I go to a site and then, a third party has put, a cookie on my device, which is going to try and tailor or kind of get me to go one direction or another. I guess if Congress were to write a law that required marketers to inform consumers that they may be tracked, then you would come up with a regulation and a process for it. But until that point, I don't think it serves any purpose. I think that pretty much, again, going back to my earlier answer, the younger demographic kind of understands that what you do is recorded somewhere, and it may be used to market to you in the future. No, I don't think that there's any additional regulation or things that businesses need to do. And the only line that would be crossed or could be crossed is if personal information were gathered about you. And if it's personal information, then it needs to be guarded to the federal statute.
We then wanted to get an opinion from a professor at North Central College, so we decided to interview Dr. Galvin, who is an associate professor of marketing and chair of marketing and management. Dr. Galvin admittedly claims she is no expert when it comes to remarketing ads, so she offers a more open, unbiased opinion.
I don't have a lot of knowledge. I'm not the one that's the expert really in the department. Another colleague is developing a class on internet marketing that we're going to be offering in fall of 2019. So until we start really starting that particular class, again, just talk in general terms with students in class, but that's about it. I think a lot of consumers do not know. I think sometimes they're surprised when they find out that it is being collected. And then I think you have the other side where, yes, some consumers do realize that it is being collected and they don't care. Mm-hmm. They're on that social media platform and they just anticipate that most likely data is being collected. It's a good question. I don't know. I have a feeling, I mean, the ads probably are long enough. I think if you have to add that little clause
After
in,
it.
that's just even a little bit more. Not sure that even, I'm wondering if consumers would even pay attention to that. You know, you see the red car, let's say, on the screen, are you really gonna notice afterwards the little,
Small print
small print
underneath, yeah.
afterwards? And I suspect in a lot of cases, the small print is probably there. It's just that as consumers, we really don't pay attention to it. Well, I definitely think it can be annoying, and so I do think that the first few ads that pop up, I think oftentimes consumers might be much more willing to be receptive to looking at those ads. But I do think over time that when ads continue to pop up, that yes, I do think you'll hear consumers say that it is very annoying, and so they just sort of block it out, or they, X them out or whatever. So I do think that's a possibility, and sometimes those negative feelings could be translated to the negativity towards that particular product. Right, I think probably from an ethical perspective, I would think that if it's very clear that you're being tracked or the data is being collected, then, it's really up to the consumer whether or not they wanted to participate. So I don't think there's any ethical questions there. And again, I suspect that, either when you download an app, when you join Facebook or Twitter, et cetera, that probably in the fine print, it probably does already say that that data is being collected, and are you willing to accept that app? And I think once you download or participate, I think that's already your consent. Whether consumers realize that most of us don't read all the right,
yeah.
definitely all that agreement, info that they provide, but I suspect most apps, just to protect themselves, probably has it in there. That's a good question too, and I'm a little biased because I teach marketing, so of course I would say marketing research, yes, I think trying to understand how useful those ads are and whether or not consumers are benefiting from those multiple ads that keep popping up. It's a lot. It reminds us a lot, I think, of reminder advertising, that what happens is that car, that truck that you've been looking at, it exists. I go off the website, but I'm going to remind you in a short time that there it is again. So I'm going to keep putting it into the forefront so that ideally you go shopping and there it is. I remember it's that Ford truck that I was looking at, and I'm going to make sure that I go and take a look at that Ford truck more closely on the lot. So I don't know. It's one of those things that I do think, though, it does make sense, I think, to have some marketing research, and perhaps they do. I would think that they would, but if they don't, that to have marketing research completed to see what are the consumers' reactions, because it could go either way. In one case, that as that ad keeps popping up, now I'm getting really disgusted with Ford and I don't even want to think about it anymore. Or for some consumers, it's like, oh, I had forgot about that. Let me go back and take another look at it. So it's going to be one of those 50-50 splits, but I think only with research you probably could see whether or not it's beneficial.
After conducting research and analyzing the interviews, we realized that trying to eliminate these ads altogether is not a realistic goal. Many companies already use these types of ads and have continued to benefit from them. We instead want to offer recommendations on how to avoid some of the negative reactions from consumers. In a world where everyone wants customization and things to be their way, companies believe that the more an ad is customized to an individual, the better it will work. But from our research and reviewing multiple studies, this might not be the case. According to a study from Ithaca College, many online users find highly customized ads to be creepy and are less likely to buy the product and services being promoted. Another study that was published in the International Journal of Advertising also looked at the risks of consumers receiving personalized ads. They found that instead of focusing on the benefits of receiving their ads, many consumers are actually more worried about the risks to their privacies and end up avoiding the advertising altogether. It is our hope that companies start to examine some of the issues that we have presented and continue to conduct more research on how consumers are receiving marketing ads.